Sometimes we pay a lot of money and give a lot of time to something that doesn't quite turn out how we expect it to. We may even end up sorely disappointed. That was me earlier this week. And I want to share the story with you because I think so often we make our lives seem glamorous and like everything is always going our way. But that's not quite how it works out for most of us anyway. And if it works out that way for you, good on you. But most of us experience a day-to-day life where sometimes things turn out differently than we expected, and sometimes we are sad or annoyed or infuriated, and I think that's important to be honest about as well. And that's what I want on this channel. I want to share our journey from home to homestead, and sometimes that includes things that doesn't go as they were supposed to. So grab something to drink. I have a lovely cup of coffee here, my last in a long while, but I'll share more about that in a different video. Something I've wanted to do since I was a little child was to learn more about ceramics, and I love playing with clay. I always have. My mum actually wanted to do ceramics for a living when she was young, but her parents told her no because it didn't pay a living wage back then. So she ended up doing some very non-artistic jobs, but I think it runs sort of in my blood to just really want to play with clay. And I finally found a course that was somewhat affordable, so I figured, okay, I'll take that course. We live here now, we have a different life, and I'd love to make some things for us. I'm not going to sit here and tell you everything I think was wrong with that course or the instructor, but I have some complaints, obviously. The thing I want to get to is that nothing I made during that course turned out the way I expected. Not a single thing turned out the way I wanted it to, or had talked to the instructor and sort of expected it to, and I made a lot of things. Which means I also had to pay a lot in materials. I went through 9 kilograms of clay. That's quite a lot of clay. You can make a lot with that. As I was picking it up, I was discouraged. Some of the things that had happened made it very clear to me that I wasn't going to ever take a course from that instructor again. When I got home, I started unpacking my ceramics, and my husband and my children were watching, and they were like, oh, my oldest son, he was so kind. He was trying to cheer me up. He was like, they're not that bad, Mum. It's kind of pretty if you look at it this way. And it was so obvious that he thought it was dead ugly, but he was so well behaved and so caring for my feelings, and it was so obvious to him that I was upset. And we talked about why I was upset, and we talked about how I needed a moment to just be in that feeling. I needed a moment to allow myself to just be upset. And I think for a lot of us, that's a step we neglect. We think we have to rush on to anger or to, we're fine, it's all fine, when we're not fine. I think giving ourselves that little bit of time to just sit and be sad, if you're sad, is okay. And I certainly needed that time to just sit and be sad. After taking that little bit of time to just be sad, I honestly called my mom, because that's what we do, right? Moms are there for us if they are still there for us. No matter if you're 6 or you're 30 something, you can still come call your mom when you're upset. So I called my mom and talked to her. I explained her everything and got a lot of compassion, and she was saying all the right things, even if they weren't entirely true. She was saying all the right things, and it really helped me move on, because that's what we need to do. We need to sit with the feeling, and then we need to decide to move on. I could still be upset, but I can feel deep down in me that I'm no longer upset. I still kind of annoying, and I have yet to figure out what to do with the pieces. Most of them are broken. Some of it is just because sometimes things break in the burning, and some of it is incompetence. Almost half my pieces were broken. So now I have all these broken pieces, and I'm thinking I don't want to do anything with them. I am not the mosaic kind of person. That's not my thing right now. It's not something I want to get into right now. But I'm wondering if I could offer them up for free for someone who does like making that sort of thing. And then I have some pieces that are functional to some level, but aren't quite what I wanted them to be. Completely wrong color, completely wrong texture, so many things. That's when I did the second thing I think we need to do in these kind of situations. I put it away. I took all of it, put it in a box and put it upstairs. It's not that I want to leave it and forget it. It's that I need a few days, a little break between my feelings, my emotions and the items, so that when I look at them next, I no longer have all those emotions welling up in me, and I can look at them more like, okay, this is an item that has nothing to do with me as a person. What do I want to do with it? Do I want to keep it, or do I want to give it to someone, or should I donate it to a second-hand store and see if someone will fall absolutely madly in love with it and have something with my initials in the bottom and never know who I am? So that's what I did. I felt my feelings, I talked about them with someone, and then I put some time and distance between me and the thing that happened. And this is not the first time I've gone through this process, and it won't be the last time I'm going through this process, because right in that moment I was very upset. I'd spent a lot of time, I'd spent a lot of money to make all those things, and none of them turned out the way I had hoped. I will share some of them with you because they are actually for the garden and somewhat usable, maybe. Those will come in a different video. I think there's a lesson for all of us in this. It's certainly a reminder for me, and it's also something I really thought a lot about. How am I modeling to my children? How am I modeling failure to my children? I am showing them, hopefully, that it's okay to get upset. You don't have to put on a brave face. If an animal dies on your property, it's okay to be upset. If your harvest of something goes wrong for some reason, it's okay to be upset for a while. How long? Depends on what goes wrong and how you as a human being tend to react. For me, this process where I was upset about this ceramics, which in the bigger picture is just a bit of wasted time and money, no lives, no nothing, that took me maybe a good hour of being really upset, and then a few more of sort of working my way out of that feeling and into something more productive. But I am hoping that I am modeling to my children that it's okay to be upset. We don't have to pretend that things never go wrong. We don't have to pretend as adults that we are never upset, that things always go our way. I think it's really healthy for children to see that even for adults, things don't go our way magically just because we turn 18. For some reason, I think a lot of children think that way, that once they grow up, everything will just go their way because they'll be in charge. Not quite the life experience the rest of us is having, is it? So yeah, being upset and then moving on, putting some distance between me and it. I will deal with it when, I don't know, when I'm ready. I'll deal with it when I'm ready. And that is an incredible luxury to have. But I've found that in almost anything that's ever happened to us, when it's these kind of failures, we can find a way to give ourselves the space to be upset and then find ourselves out of that upset and into a more productive feeling. And if it's something we need to handle, to give ourselves that little bit of space. Sometimes it can be hours, sometimes it could be days, sometimes it could be months, sometimes it could be years, depending on the issue. It's not an excuse not to deal with it, because we do need to deal with it. It removes us that little bit more from the situation, so that once we deal with it, we don't deal with it out of that initial upset, especially not if we're trying to hide that upset and put on a brave face. I hope this was of value to you. It's just really important for me to share that not everything goes our way, and even though it seems like in these last few videos that we've made a ton of progress, and we have, Sometimes there are months with absolutely no tangible progress. We know we're making progress in some ways, but it isn't as visually impressive as felling 5 trees and making a compost pile and all of that stuff. I'd love to hear a story from you of where something failed, flopped, didn't go according to plan, that made you upset, and afterwards you were able to give yourself some space and then handle it. Please share those in the comments. I'd love to hear them, and I think it's just really good for all of us to hear more of these kinds of stories of things going absolutely wrong and we still managed to make it through. And even if we feel like we haven't gained anything, we probably gained a little bit of life experience and knowledge along the way. Cough and coffee. And we're good to go again.